Your words have power, so watch what you say. See, this is an important idea, not only for you to understand, but truly internalize, because the words that you say hold power. The words that you say ultimately create your reality and create the life that you end up living, right? And that can be you creating a dream life or creating a life that's undesirable and a life that's unfulfilled. And I'm going to break it all down so that it is crystal clear in your mind so you can understand how powerful your words are. Because if you truly understood how powerful your words are, you probably wouldn't be saying half the things that you've said in the past. And it was an eye-opening moment for me, because once I came to realization and understanding of how powerful my words truly were, that's when I was also conscious of the things that other people were saying. And you eventually realize, because of this, that most people don't think, that most people are not active thinkers. They're not conscious thinkers. Of course, we're human beings, right? We think. And this is by no means to insult anybody out there, right? But you realize that people are not truly critically thinking about each and everything, right? That most people are just, that we're habitual creatures, that most times we're operating on autopilot, right? Because if most people truly knew the power of their words and what they were saying, they wouldn't be saying even half of the things that they say now, right? So let's break this all down, right? The words that you speak, the words that you say, those words came from somewhere, right? Of course, those words came from your thoughts. It came from your mind. Now, what you need to understand about this is that Napoleon Hill, who is the author of Think and Grow Rich, this is the individual who's been around many different billionaires throughout his lifetime and wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, which is one of the most popular financial and personal development books ever written in all of mankind, right? It's over 100 million copies sold worldwide, right? In that book, he says, you become what you think about most of the time. And this isn't just his opinion. This is a unanimous agreement across the board, across all philosophers, across all thinkers, all people who were, very smart. And, like, this was a unanimous agreement across the board that you become what you think about most of the time. So the thoughts that run through your mind and run through your mind often, those are the thoughts that are ultimately going to create the results, the life that you're going to live and the results that you're going to get. Because your thoughts are what shapes your reality and what shapes your world. You see, what you need to understand is that the beliefs that you have, the beliefs that you hold, are what creates the facts of your life, right? If you believe you're not good enough, you believe you're not capable, then you're not going to be good enough and you're not going to be capable because you're not going to try. Because if you believe that you already don't have a shot, you're not even going to try, right? So in that case, that belief is what created the fact, right? And what you need to understand is a belief is nothing more than a thought that you think over and over. It's just a repetitive thought and habitual thought. So because it's just a thought that we think over and over, that belief doesn't necessarily have to be true. And in most cases, we have faulty beliefs. We have incorrect beliefs. We have beliefs of things that are not true, but we believe it to be true, right? There's people, even though we have so much evidence of the world being round, right? That Earth is a globe, and Earth is circular, right? Round. There's some people who believe that Earth is still flat, right? And they're allowed to believe that, but that's not necessarily true, right? This is the same with many other beliefs that we might hold about ourselves or about the world around us that isn't necessarily true. But because we hold those beliefs, it shapes our life. It shapes our reality. Now, since we are free thinkers, right, we are actually allowed to choose any thought that we want to think. And so we can actually insert and we'll create any new belief we want moving forward. We don't have to live our life with the same belief. But most people are not aware of that, and so they don't make that change, right? So the thoughts that you think, right, thoughts that you think up here leads to the emotions that you feel, which leads to the actions that you take, which ultimately creates the results that you experience in your life, right? And it's easy for us to look at it with, a negative example, because I love showing the extremes, right? If someone is wishing ill will on another person, let's just say someone is wishing something bad to happen for someone else, right? And they're shouting and they're screaming at this person, they're saying bad things to this person. The bad things that they're saying, these are the negative words, right? Words hold vibration because they're thoughts, right? Words have energy because they're thoughts, right? So these are negative thoughts that they're saying out loud. Those words, those negative words that they're saying came from their thoughts. So they were thinking negative thoughts. So if you're thinking negative thoughts, you are going to feel negative emotions because your true self doesn't agree with those thoughts. Your true self doesn't agree with those ideas, right? With the stuff that you're saying and the energy that you're spewing, right? The venom that you're spewing to someone else, your true self and your true essence isn't in agreement. That's why you feel the discourse within you, right? So you begin to feel the negative emotion. So even if you're saying negative things to someone else, right? You begin to feel the negative emotion within yourself. So you might think that you're wishing bad things on someone else, but when you're doing that, you're actually wishing bad things onto yourself because you're using those words negatively with such energy behind it. You're probably angry, you're probably screaming at that person, right? So you're feeling the negative emotion inside yourself. So those words are things that you wish on that other person, you've actually wished on yourself. And so you're feeling the negative emotion, which in many cases will lead to negative action and negative results, right? Think about the people who are really angry, who say a lot of negative things and bad things to other people. Those people that will say negative words will typically people that might be so frustrated that they might get physical, that find themselves getting into a physical altercation, right? That's you. Everything is in alignment, right? Negative thoughts leading to negative emotion and negative energy, which is leading to negative action, you getting into physical altercation with someone, which then leads to a negative result of you getting arrested and landing in jail, right? Like you're seeing how there is an obvious connection between all of the elements, right? So this is what I want you to understand. The reason why your words have power are because your words come from somewhere. And your words that you say, of course, are a reflection of what you're thinking in that moment, right? Because if someone is happy and they're feeling good and they're feeling amazing, they're not going to wish ill will to someone else because that won't even cross their mind because that's not the thoughts of negativity are not in alignment with who they are in that moment, right? Because they're feeling good, they're feeling amazing, they're happy. They're not thinking negative thoughts. The emotions that you feel is reflecting the thoughts that you're thinking. So if you're feeling negative emotion, then that means you're thinking negative thoughts because it's your thoughts that led to it led to the emotion that you're feeling, right? But if you're feeling positive emotion, that means you're thinking positive thoughts. So if you're happy, you're not just gonna wish ill will to somebody because you're not in that state. So the words that people say reflect the state that they're in, right? And if you're wishing ill will onto someone else, if you're saying negative words, then you're actually wishing that negativity on yourself because you thought that thought of negativity and then you're also saying it and you're probably putting a lot of emotion behind it, right? You're experiencing that thought in your own body. And what happens, right? And this is what most people also are not aware of. What happens is that when your body is experiencing negative emotion, your body is out of balance. So what that means is when you're feeling your best, when you're feeling at the top, when you're feeling absolutely amazing and you're smiling, you're laughing, right? You feel good. Your body feels amazing. When your body feels amazing, that is when your body is at its best state. This is when your immune system is high. This is when your body is strong, is feeling good, right? When you're at that positive, happy, perfect state, illness and disease cannot exist. It cannot, because your body is exactly where it's supposed to be, right? It is in the perfect state. But when you're being nasty, when you're being negative, when you're feeling negative emotion, right? And you're spewing negativity to other people, your body becomes acidic, right? Your body basically gets to a state where it becomes weaker. It becomes more prone to illness, more prone to sickness, more prone to all these things, right? And so you've probably you've experienced it yourself, right? We're all human, right? So we've experienced moments where really negative things have happened that we consider to be really negative events have happened that has led us to cry and feel powerless and feel hopeless, right? We've had our moments like that, right? In those moments when you're crying your eyes out, how does your body feel? Your body feels weak. Your body feels exhausted, right? your defenses has gone down, which makes you more prone to getting sick. It makes you more prone to developing diseases and illnesses, right? So you're seeing the entire connection with everything. That's why it shouldn't be a surprise when you see someone who's habitually angry or habitually negative find themselves getting sick or find themselves developing some sort of disease or whatever, right? Because it's all connected, right? Your thoughts have power, your words have power. If you truly knew how powerful your words are, you wouldn't be saying half the things that you would say, because most people are creatures of habit. It's like most people have a normal way of operating, and sometimes they might say things without even thinking. And it's not that without actively thinking. And if things are said automatically without actively thinking, then that means that's how you've been programmed. And if you've been programmed to be negative, right, then you need to change that programming. And the only way you change that programming is through repetition, right? For example, there are so many people that are naturally programmed to be negative. Like, I can go up to them and say, hey, I have this amazing idea to start this business, or I have this great idea to do XYZ. And someone will automatically say, oh, that'll never work. That's someone who's programmed to be negative. Because why would you want to be negative about that when that idea can very well be an amazing idea that can do amazing things for not only the person who had the idea, but also it can be a great way to serve other people. Like, we don't know where that could take us, right? Some people might have an idea for themselves, but they just might think that it can't happen. So if you think that, then that's what's going to be your reality. It won't happen because you won't ever try, right? Like, I want you to understand how powerful what you say is, because what you say not only is a reflection of the emotion that you're feeling in that moment, but obviously it's a reflection of your thoughts. And you should be thinking thoughts that serve you. You should be thinking thoughts that get you excited. You should be thinking thoughts that make you feel on top of the world. Because the other element to it is that the emotion that you're feeling, which is the energy that you're vibrating in this world with law of attraction, the energy that you put out is the energy that you receive in return. Everything on the planet is energy. Everything is connected. Everything's one. So if you're vibrating negative energy, then you will be attracting negative events into your life. If you are vibrating positive energy, then you are going to attract positive people, events, and circumstances into your life, right? So your words have power because your words are a reflection of the thoughts that you think, and it's also a reflection of the emotions that you feel, and it's creating the emotions that you're going to feel. And for most people, they have likely been unaware of this information, and so in a lot of cases, most people have been creating by default. Some event happens in their life, right, whether big or small, most people are conditioned to react to that event rather than respond. Reacting is just when something happens, they have a knee-jerk reaction. Whatever is the first response that comes to mind, that's what they'll do. That's the action that they'll take. Those are the words that they'll say, rather than being able to take a step back, breathe, and respond, which is you being, intentional with how you decide to move, to respond to that event. So I just want to record this video because I want you to understand that you are in fact the creator of your life and the creator of your reality. And the words that you say is what helps shape that, because the words that you say are just a reflection of your thoughts. If you're saying nasty, negative words to other people, then you're wishing that same nastiness onto yourself, and you feel it with the negative emotion. So it's not actually worth it, right? What's actually worth it is you being in control of your thoughts, right? Your beliefs are what creates the facts of your life, and beliefs are nothing more than thoughts that you think over and over. So if you want to change a belief, you need to decide on a thought that you want to think, a thought that will serve you, and you need to think that thought over and over and over until you believe it, so that it can be your new belief and create the facts of your life. You see, most people, it becomes evident that most people aren't actively thinking, right? And most people are just on autopilot, that they're not thinking, because if they were truly thinking, they wouldn't be saying half of the things that they say, right? People would not be negative to one another. People would not be rude to one another, disrespectful to one another. People wouldn't be doing that because they would understand the greater ramifications. They will understand that not only feeling negative emotions makes you feel bad, which I don't think anyone wants to feel bad internally, but it also opens yourself up to being sick, right? To experience adverse effects. It also attracts negative events into your life, right? It also attracts negative results into your life. And these thoughts don't even serve you. So why would you speak the words that don't serve you to then feel the emotion that don't serve you, right? It ends up being a complete chain reaction that does not serve you, right? So because you watching the video now understand the true power of your words, why it's so important to be cognizant and be intentional with the words that you choose, right? Hopefully this video allows you to now think about what it is that you want, to think about the thoughts that serve you. And before you react like most people do, right, that they'll just say whatever's the first thing that comes to mind, right? You want to stop and respond to things. You want to be intentional, right? In moments where there's times that might be challenging for you, you want to tell yourself that everything's going to be fine and everything's going to work itself out, right? Because it's so much better to believe that everything's going to be fine and everything's going to work itself out than for you to believe that everything's falling apart and the world, right? Like, I don't think anyone wants to live a life worried, anxious, right? Experiencing all these negative emotions because there's so many negative adverse effects that, tie into that. So your words have power because they ultimately create and shape the reality that you're going to live. And so the question to you is, are you going to be a deliberate creator? Are you going to be intentional with your creative power to create the life that you want to live? Or are you just going to allow everything to, for you to just live by default, live reacting and just continue living the life that you've been living, right? You see, the beautiful part is that the choice is always yours. So I wraps up the video. Enjoy the video. Do leave a like and subscribe as we're on the road to a million subscriber, guys. So once again, it's Joel, and I'm out. I'll see you guys for the next video.